Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another baseline show. This show today is the October General Assembly. I'll go ahead and pass it off to Son.
Sorry, my audio was playing the YouTube video, so I didn't hear what you said, but I think you handed it over to me. I heard what you said twice, actually, but still didn't comprehend. So I'll start with some outreach updates, and then we'll go into the simple reference implementation, the standards work group, the technical steering committee, and all the other updates throughout the community. These will be some pretty brief updates because everyone is quite busy with their full-time engagements, extra engagements, and then of course the open source work that they're part of as well. So we do have our work outlined in a lot of the recent baseline shows. So feel free to watch those to get the in-depth analysis and updates on what's been worked on. And we'll keep these general assemblies on to showcase the progress month by month. But if it doesn't seem super exciting each month, don't be alarmed because the work is still progressing and the key priorities are constantly being iterated on by the community leaders. So with outreach, we sort of are taking a pause on that group at this time because the core developer work that's being done is very hefty and will have outreach efforts happening alongside. So other plus ones like research, enablement materials and such have winded down from the recent progress and things that were complete this year in anticipation of the simple reference implementation being complete and the outreach items alongside being the key priority to kick off shortly. So hopefully we'll have some of the developers who are part of that effort and people of other personas like product, marketing, and others who join the outreach efforts very soon because we'll have a really defined roadmap for what needs to get done that aligns with the general TSC and community roadmap as well. But really the key will be to make sure that we have proper materials that explain to various personas how the simple reference implementation can be leveraged by developers, companies, marketing people who maybe want to write about the capabilities and just really making sure that we have things created to support the work. So with that, Mark, I'll hand over to you to let us know what blogs are being cooked up right now.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, the latest blog being cooked up talks about milestone 4, which we talked about on the last baseline show. It should be out maybe in a week, hopefully a week, maybe 2, depending on some of the other editors that are looking at it now. But it talks about all the features that are being released with BRI 3's beta version completed with milestone 4. So that would be like state storage and Merkleization of the state objects included in workflows, the virtual state machine, which processes transactions, and a little bit about how those transactions are processed and proved under zero knowledge for privacy and regulatory compliance. So just a little bit about that. I don't want to give away the whole blog, so you want to read it for yourself.
Maybe on a future show, you can read it to us.
Yeah, like every word of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
John used to talk about that too, reading the standard.
Just read a whole blog.
Line by line. It would definitely give us some content for these shows. But yeah, so that blog is going to be an EEA blog like the last milestone completion was. So we'll make sure that's circulated throughout the community. And I think a super important aspect of that blog is really explaining the functionalities for businesses from what was created and what capabilities are introduced from actually being able to leverage the baseline standard. So soon after, I'm sure Mark's already getting started on it, we'll have some wrap up piece, a blog report or something that actually talks about the entirety of the implementation, which I think is super exciting because, as we all know, it's a really hefty standard, and an implementation that fully leverages open source components is what's necessary to actually bring this standard to fruition. Alrighty, so Yoav, tell us what's going on in the developer world.
Yeah, all right. So like Mark kind of touched on, milestone 4 is now kind of officially completed in its entirety. The grant request has been approved by the TSC, which is meaningful in the sense that it's agreed on by kind of leadership that everything within the scope of that milestone has is confirmed to be completely finished. So that's very exciting. Milestone 4, just to kind of recap, is the beta version of the SRI. We went through and decided an official use case, which is the buyer and seller use case, and created some workflows, work steps, and we implemented any necessary standards of the protocol in order to kind of successfully trigger, store, and transact all those state changes. And more in depth on that, like we said on the blog that'll be coming up. And also mentioned the last baseline show, which is available on YouTube to rewatch, was a code walk of that status of the milestone, so milestone 4, and gets a lot more in depth, kind of looking through all of the code and explaining, you know, the files line by line in some cases of what it's accomplishing and why it's there, and kind of architecture decision making, all of those things that went into creating everything necessary for that milestone. So it's very educational from a technical standpoint for anybody who wants to kind of understand a little more the architecture in depth, right, and how it's actually being built out. So milestone 4 out of the way, milestone 5 is now kind of the main full-time focus of the work group. Milestone 5 is the final milestone. The completion of that milestone will complete the SRI BRI 3 in its entirety. And that milestone, the intention of that is to fully support the use case kind of all the way through, and have end-to-end test coverage of that support in order to demonstrate that everything that is required is in place in order to have that all flowing correctly. So issues and discussions have been made for this milestone, and all of the devs involved have kind of tasks and are working diligently to close out issues, make PRs, and get this milestone and the project as a whole really just wrapped up nice and neatly. Finally, in exciting news for the work group and really Baseline as a whole, thanks to the Gitcoin grant that we applied for, Gathin here, which is on the call, who's on the call, found our project and has decided to kind of join in and see what it's all about. So I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Yeah, thank you, Yo, for this. Thank you, Sonal, for getting me into Baseline protocol. So basically, I found Baseline. I'm a full stack developer, blockchain developer, and I work on the back end, front end. So I'm still in my third year of my college right now. I'm from India. So I was looking into various open source projects to contribute, as I was previously a founding engineer in 2 products, which was basically a closed source project. So I wanted to showcase my talent outside. So I was searching for some good projects out there. That's when I found Baseline protocol in a Gitcoin draw. So when I approached the team over the Slack, so they just told me that currently they're doing the BRI 3 implementation. So I just got started with it, and I just completed the local deployment, and I was assigned a few issues this week. So I'm looking forward to work on it and get the milestone done. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. And I have a question. Of course, the Baseline project in the sea of the Gitcoin projects is probably a little less exciting and shiny in the blockchain space, but what drew you to the project from what you started learning and reading about for Baseline?
I like Baseline. The thing which I like about Baseline protocol is the community involvement and the number of contributors who actually made valuable contributions to the project. not just a not just the core team which makes the actual contribution and the contributors who just make a small tiny issues or get the backlogs done. It's not about it. Anyone and everyone can have a bigger part and contribution to it. So that's what I liked about, and I just saw the Slack group, which was very inclusive for new developers or like people to get help and reach for support. So that's what interested me in approaching baseline protocol.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that feedback. It's always really helpful to hear. And I agree. One of the cool things about Baseline is that you don't have to be a developer to join the community. Of course, we love our developers and we always want more. But any skills or interests that you have or want to start growing can be brought to the Baseline community. As long as you're interested in working together with all sorts of personalities, there's a spot for everyone there. We always need content creators, people who want to learn a little bit about the tech, but help us actually synthesize it into information that non-technical people can understand. Someone could have an interest in a really specific industry or use case like healthcare or insurance, and bring value by helping us start developing architecture around that use case, things like that. So the possibilities are endless. And I'm glad to hear you had a good experience joining the Slack, because I think we always get excited when new members join, and it's really cool the range of ways that people find out about the community. I was really surprised to learn that you found out from Gitcoin, and a few others who have joined in the last couple weeks that are still doing their kind of studying of Baseline found out about the project from various platforms as well. So even if things seem quiet on our social media or on our shows, we don't have these huge, exciting updates. That's just the nature of the standards bodies. But what's really telling is that we're consistently adding new members to the community through the initiatives that we do continue. So thank you for joining and looking forward to your involvement in that group.
Thank
Back
you so
to
much.
you,
Looking
Yoav.
forward for a great time too. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's really great to hear, especially your experience that, as a developer with technical background, that you were able to just join and immediately kind of be part of the group. You weren't just being stuck on, something kind of minimal, but we put you straight into it. And I think from our perspective too, it's very exciting to have another set of hands and someone else with a technical background who can just immediately kind of be a part of it. So we're very thankful to have you in the group, and we're glad that you're able to join.
Yeah, we'd also love to
Thank
hear
you.
your criticisms on what was hard, what didn't make sense, what would have made things a lot easier, because at some point we don't want to be roadblocks to people jumping into the code and being able to actually leverage the implementation. So fresh perspectives on what was missing is also greatly appreciated.
Sure. Thank you so much. Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Back to you, Yoav.
Yeah. I think with that all being said, just a kind of final shout out, if anybody else watching this or rewatching this wants to get involved and does have a technical background, there's definitely room for you, and there's definitely excitement for you to join. We will bring you up to speed, show you everything you need to know, explain the repo, and then issue tasks as soon as you're ready. So if this is something that is interesting to you, we're definitely ready to have you.
Yeah, I think also one of my favorite parts about how your work group operates is with the issues and documents that are created. I know in the beginning, the group had to figure out how to project manage an open source effort, and that's a big and difficult task. One of the biggest roadblocks in open source communities, but I love going through some of these issues that are on the repo, and they're so detailed. Like I can click one and honestly learn about whatever that really tedious detail is. And it's a really cool exercise to just learn different aspects of the Baseline protocol in digestible chunks. There's also always some funny things in there. Like I saw the one about constructing a meaningful sentence from all the names of L2 chains. I didn't know why that was relevant, but I did like that one.
A little Easter egg.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. That's all the updates that I have right now. But thank you very much.
Alrighty, so over to the TSC roadmap/grants section. So the Technical Steering Committee of 2022/2023 has just wrapped up their final session where they did a retrospective and talked about what went well and what can be improved next year. The nomination period just ended where people could nominate themselves or others for the upcoming steering committee. And the voting period will take place October 25th through November 8th. So any eligible voters will be able to vote for the next round of steering committee members, which are the leaders of the baseline community. I think one change this year that might still be in the process of being finalized is having a smaller group this year. We've had 11 the previous years since the founding, and although that's exciting, it shows how many people are interested in being leaders. It is a big group to actually manage and make sure that everyone is able to do make meaningful contributions as well as reaching quorum. So with a large number, it also means a percentage of members are out for different reasons. And we just really want to have a very active leadership group. So very soon we'll learn who our nominees are. They'll be joining baseline shows, hopefully to give a statement, and that voting period will take place. So anyone who's not an existing voter, an approved voter for the elections, you can still submit a PR to any of the baseline repos. And once that PR is merged, which requires you signing the ICLA, then you're an eligible voter. That's all it takes. And I'm sure you can find some PR to submit. Just find a typo. I'm sure I've made a few in there. And with that, I'll jump over to grants. Our Gitcoin grant project wrapped up, as you all know. We raised $3,077 from 2,084 contributors. I just checked and we have $6,300 raised from the quadratic funding. I'm going to take a look at the process and see where that puts us in the Gitcoin round steps to see if there's anything else that's going on or if that's our final number from the grant funding round. So we'll keep everyone updated and we'll post about it on our socials, hopefully make a blog, because aside from having additional grant funds to fund the open source work, I think it's also really exciting that we had 2,000 plus contributors, because even if they were small donations, it showcases commitment to the work that we're doing. And also we are waiting to find out the outcome from our trust chain grant application. So the grant stuff in progress will all fall on the plate of the new technical steering committee. Alrighty. Looks like Andreas is not here with us yet. He was going to cover the standards updates, but does anyone here know what's going on in the standards community, or sorry, in the standards work group?
Yeah, I can give a little.
Thank you.
Maybe status. There are a couple people working currently on making testability requirement updates to the standard itself. Kind of, I think, two main active contributors currently working on that, and there are a handful of PRs that are open. I want to say 8, maybe off the top of my head, that are being reviewed, have comments left on them, and just kind of need updates in some cases, or in a lot of them, it's honestly just something simple like spelling or grammar. It's nothing that needs like a total rework, but that work group and kind of that task of creating those testability requirements are still kind of in front of mind in that work group and are still being added into the standard slowly but surely. So work's still getting done there for sure.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, over to an open floor. I don't know how much we will have because a lot of the updates we just gave, or a lot of the focus that we have, But does anyone want to share anything else that's going on in other projects, full-time work, things you're learning about? Keith, how's the ZK EVM world?
Yeah, it's a great world. Actually, I was just trying
Can't
to
talk
look
about
at my
it.
tabs because I've been through so many projects lately, and I know I've been across some cool stuff, but it's just like too much. So somebody fill some time while I look.
Yes.
The one that comes to mind actually is not really, I don't know, it's not necessarily like web, it's AI stuff a lot that I've been getting. There's the rewind pendant. So I'll just kind of mention it quickly. I don't know if you guys seen this. The pendant that you wear that like records all of your conversations, but supposedly will only record,
gosh.
uses AI, it'll only record like anybody who's given consent. So it'll just record you, like your side of the conversation, and then anybody who's given consent, right? So the interesting is like, how does that work if you have I don't know, if you have a child and you want to record them? I guess they're not like, well, they're like your property at that. Not really your property, but you can give consent on their behalf, right? And anyways, yeah, that's just the first one that comes to mind.
Is that necessary in a one-party state? I know most states, right, only require that one, or at least in America, I'm speaking only.
I think that
consent.
I think that the idea is that they're building it with like privacy in mind and not necessarily just to constrict to like whatever the laws are, right?
Gotcha.
Because like the whole thing is, how is this different from everybody just being like, just wiretapping everybody, right?
Well, the difference is then it can create like a summary that's queryable. That's
yeah.
right?
That's the whole, I think that's the intended purpose. Is supposed to make things, I don't know, make your, I guess the work you're doing, like you wear it during work, and then in case, like a lot of time you leave a conversation with just like one or two general ideas in mind, like do this or this, and a lot of the details like fall out. So supposedly you could just say query and look back and then ask it to summarize, like, hey, what did we talk about then? So there's that.
That's so interesting. I mean, I can see where it would be super helpful for, like, if you're a nurse running around all day and you don't have to, like your charting kind of does itself or things like that. Obviously, there's many other data privacy concerns for that use case, but I don't know. It's interesting. I'm not surprised, but it is kind of cool to see the actual, like, tangible real world use cases that are coming about from AI. I had no idea about this.
Yeah, it's like a real life otter or firefly. Like you don't have to just be in Zoom anymore. Your real world can be fully like digitized and queryable. I guess fully being though only if they give consent in this instance.
I guess more on the ZK side that I've noticed. I mean, there's a ton of projects, of course, that involve ZK, but I'll mention a couple of things. One thing is that I think maybe even just like 6 months ago or more, there wasn't, if you went to go learn about zero knowledge, you would find kind of more, mathematical resources or just stuff that other people had built. Now there's a lot more material, just kind of garnered for the kind of the learning from the learning perspective, like an educational perspective, right? Like I know we've talked about Rare Skills and other people that have a ZK boot camp that may be more like engineer tailored, right? And I believe also I think Berkeley has a course as well where they outline like educational materials and stuff. So there's kind of catching up in the educational space for ZK. And then there's some really cool things going on. I think the latest one I saw was a project called Wrinkle, where they have this idea that something about interoperability between multiple chains, and they're accomplishing that supposedly by running and I may get this wrong, right? So, forgive me if I do, by running like a snark node that has encoded in its circuit like all of the consensus rules of a particular chain. So like for example, Ethereum, and to have all the kind of the consensus rules used to reach kind of a proof of consensus or proof of finality on Ethereum. And they'll have like a node running that represents that and can kind of create like a single proof of consensus or proof of finality. And then to do that with, you know, like many other multiple chains, and then to combine all those proofs into like a single kind of proof of consensus, proof of finality. It's more complicated than that. They have like multiple layers. They have that proving layer and then like an attestation layer on top of that. But the idea is that through accomplishing that, they'll really kind of activate the possibility of, you know, interoperability between these multiple chains. I'm sure I kind of butchered that a little bit, but it's really new and I just looked on the site, so, you know, check it out. A lot of them, people believe that, of course, multi-chain is the future, but it's just so complicated sometimes, right, to achieve true like multi-chain, cross-chain. So it's cool to see kind of a mixture of you know, kind of the past of moving towards multi-chain plus, you know, incorporating new technologies to, I don't know, kind of achieve what others are trying to achieve in maybe a more succinct manner, right? And I think there's a couple of talks out there from the CEO founder, Nicholas Rasmund. I think he was at ZK10, so ZK Summit, right? I also totally may got all that information wrong. For sure, I messed up part of the name and maybe the number of the summit, but it's out there. Find it. Yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I typed exactly what you said into YouTube and didn't get what you meant. But yeah, thanks for sharing. It's always cool to hear about the recent changes in the trends of ZK, especially because this community has really seen it explode in front of our eyes. The baseline protocol community early on didn't even have ZK as a major concept in its marketing, but it always involved zero knowledge cryptography. And in 2019, when the standard was first founded and developed, that was really early for the current wave of ZK. Of course, the general concepts have been around for some time, but it's been really cool to see how quickly it's been growing, and awesome that it's the tech that we've been focusing on. All right. And I know we were talking about new community members and different backgrounds they bring and ways that they found out about the baseline protocol. Another new member just joined the call, and I'd like to give him a moment to introduce himself. So Anurag, if you like to turn your camera on, you'll be visible on screen. But we'd love to hear a little more about you and your background.
Yes. So yeah, there will be some background noise, so just pardon me for that. We are having some festivities here. So a brief background means this is not the first time I am in this group. Probably maybe a year back, I was there. I was not active, but I was there in the group. So I know Andreas. I worked with him in Consensus. I was there in Consensus India team in 2019-20, and I think I know John as well, not personally too much, but yeah, through LinkedIn and common connect, I know John as well. So I have some idea, but yeah, I think around a year back when baseline was pretty new, I guess. So I had some idea and I wanted to join and do something, but yeah, I couldn't do much. But now I think I am ready to dive in, and probably I have to catch up with all the details which Sonal has shared. But yeah, I would like to be connected and probably contribute whatever I can.
Awesome. Thank you. And can you tell us a little more about your background and what area you focus on?
Yeah, so pre-blockchain, probably I have worked in, like, overall, I can say overall I have 20 years of experience in IT. Pre-blockchain means I I joined blockchain, or I knew about blockchain maybe around 2017-18. Before that, I worked with companies like IBM, GE Healthcare, Wipro. Mostly, I was a C++ developer and then graduated to become a platform architect, that kind of thing. And around 2018, there was a boot camp by Consensus India when I think Kavita was there and they wanted to start their team. So I was part of that boot camp, and then subsequently I joined the India team, Consensus India team, around 2019 on 1.5 years. And after that, I have joined Reliance Jio as a blockchain architect, almost 4 years. So obviously in Consensus, I was working with Ethereum and writing Solidity code and bit of product management, that kind of stuff. Here, I'm more of a blockchain or solution architect, platform architect, and it's obviously not Ethereum here. It's more of a permission blockchain which we are trying to create in our company. So I'm trying to help them both in terms of solutioning in the platform as well as some features on the platform side.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that introduction. I was looking at your background as well while you're explaining, and looks like you have experience with the EEA as well. So you've been watching closely.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you. We look forward to continuing to have you in the community, and hopefully can bring you into some concrete efforts soon. I think your background of solutions architecture, product, and those types of skills will be really helpful for the stage that we're reaching for the simple reference implementation, where we need to make resources that make it understandable to those types of personas. So nice to have you here. All right. And with our open floor, anything else anyone wants to share?
I'll just go ahead and quickly correct myself. So it is Wrinkle with a Q, WINQLE, and then his name is Nicholas Ramsrud. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong as well, but it's closer than the last thing that I said. So there you go.
Awesome.
There's some cool ZK projects and like ZK infrastructure. I think it's a big kind of up and coming field, of course, right? Domain. ZK Rollup as a service, a lot of places you can go to and deploy in minutes. That's what most of these companies touted, like, oh, you'll be able to deploy in like 3 minutes, 6 minutes. Some examples are like Presto. Presto's a pretty cool one that I think you can deploy in maybe 6 minutes now, 3 to 6 minutes for sure, in just a matter of clicks. That's it.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Alrighty. And Anurag, it'd be awesome to have you on a future show as well as a guest to tell us more about the project that you're working on and spend a full session highlighting that. All right. Alrighty. I think that's the end of our October General Assembly. Thank you for those who joined us. It was really cool to hear from 2 new baseline community members, new/existing. And we look forward to our next baseline show in a couple weeks. And as always, check out baseline-protocol.org for all of the resources and ways to get involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.